it's one of those things where I feel constantly like I'm running out of time. And I think it's hard for me. That's also why it's hard for me to like stay in the moment
Hmm.
I'm always like, okay, what am I going to do next? Is that thing not necessarily going to make me happy? Because I'm a very happy person. Like
Hmm.
I love my life, but
Hmm.
just like, am I going to achieve the next level that I am striving for? This is a Pink Boots production.
We're here to laugh, we're here to cry, we're here to share what's deep inside. But on all the days, all the time, we are more than you see.
Welcome back, everyone, to More Than You See, where Shelley and I have conversations with creatives about their mental health journeys. As a reminder, we aren't licensed practitioners or therapists, but hopefully in sharing our own struggles and victories, we can help you feel a little less alone and add some tools to your mental health toolbox. Now, I'm going to start us off like that, and also, I just used the wrong blurb, which I'm like, but like, this is exactly what we were just talking about, where we're just like showing up as we are today. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that I don't have a mount for my mic. I am just holding it like a diva rock star over here.
I'm
I'm
trying
filming
to
in
catch up and
Florida.
get the blurbs logged on here so I can follow along with my co-host here.
I mean, this is just we're just like doing it real today. So
Real
thank you
and raw.
everyone for joining us and like just being real with us. I'm excited because today Shelley had the brilliant idea that we're gonna do a
As I usually
remix
do.
episode.
As I usually
Excuse
do.
me?
As I usually do. The
That's true.
brilliant ideas.
Shelley is full of brilliant ideas, y'all. And we are doing a remix episode from the very first episode of the podcast. And this is because, last remix episode we did one all about Shelley in one of the past episodes that she was on as a guest. And so now we're going to throw it back. So Shelley, do you have a question? Like
I've
let's
got all the questions, Deborah.
okay, great.
All I have are
Hit
questions.
me.
Life is full of
Hit me.
questions, aren't they? No, the last remix episode definitely inspired me because we had looked at the first time I was on the podcast, and then I looked at you and I said, "Well, why aren't we doing this for you? Hello, it's your podcast. We should go back to the very first episode." And so let's just start right into it. My first question, I obviously know, and your listeners know, this podcast was birthed out of COVID, out of a time where things were feeling very out of control and what could we do? And so Deborah and I were listening to a little bit of the first episode that she launched. And if you would like to go back, it's on YouTube or on Spotify. It's only 16 minutes long, which I did not realize. And so I guess my first question out is, you've mentioned this is the sixth season. What was your impetus? What was the desire and the need? Tell us what happened of like, I'm going to make a podcast or I need to put myself out on YouTube. Like, what was the moment that you just executed and said, I'm going to do this, whether you knew what you wanted to do or not? Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about that.
I mean, so I've shared this a few times on the podcast. So welcome, new listeners. But I have always been like aware of mental health, but it wasn't like a big thing for me until me and my ex-husband split, and we split in a very dramatic, very painful way. And we're gonna like insert right here a little clip from the past episode. So that'll explain exactly what it is about my like suicidal ideations and everything that was going on right there. So listen to this from past Deb. More Than You See is a nonprofit organization that I founded 2 years ago when I was going through a really difficult time myself. I like to explain it that I wasn't necessarily suicidal in that I wasn't making plans, but I was standing on the precipice of making difficult decisions like that. And I realized how scary that is to be in that space. I was in such a dark place in my life and in my time. And one of my really good friends said to me at that point, can you just do one thing every day that brings you happiness? Just do one thing that gets you out of bed, that gives you some reason to like continue to have purpose and continue to live in some way. And I started to hike every day in LA, which is where I live, with my dog. And when I was hiking, I was listening to podcasts. And one such podcast I listened to was an interview with an actor that I hugely admire. And he was talking about his own experience with mental illness, with depression, with suicide. And I remember thinking, wow, if someone like him, who, in my opinion, seems to have it all, everything all together, if he's suffering through depression and suicidal thoughts, then it completely makes like it's okay that I feel that way too. It really, listening to that podcast made me feel so much less alone. And I realized how special it was that it wasn't, a diagnosis. It wasn't anything specific that really, pulled me out of the darkness. It was that podcast episode, listening to that person's story. And I realized the importance of stories and the importance of being vulnerable and open and sharing our experiences. And I decided right then and there that I wanted to create a organization, a platform for people to share their own resources, their own stories about what are the things that help them, what are the things that pull them out of the darkness. And that is how More Than You See was born. Also, can I say, excuse the varying degree in like vocal quality from the past episodes. I re-listened to the episode today and I was like, man, was I launching at 80%. Like I was not chasing perfectionism.
But that's exactly when you should launch, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We've talked about this in the last remix episode of whether it's writing, whatever, like you're never going to be fully ready. So, and look at you now, 6 episodes, seasons deep.
Yeah, and fucking do it.
Yeah, you just leap of faith. So
yeah,
go into more about the relationship.
Yeah, like the other pieces of it was I was at the time during COVID I lived alone. I was me and my dog, and that was a very isolating experience, obviously, to state the obvious. But for me, I'm like a little bit of a control freak and definitely a doer. So I just started doing a lot of things. I would go on Instagram Live and do daily dance videos every day at 9 a.m. and was like, who wants to join me? I was trying all sorts of random things in order to connect with other people because I was living alone. And one of the things that I did was I went and had these mental health talks with the Mighty. And the Mighty is a really incredible organization. They've got millions of people around the world. And so I would lead these Facebook lives where people would come on and share what they were going through, and I would give them thoughts and feedback in real time. And I would come on and I would share I just read this article about mental health, or whatever. And I constantly got people who were following me, who were messaging me, and they were like, we want more. We don't want you to only be doing this once a month or whatever it was. We want to hear from you all the time. And I was like, well, I guess I'll make a podcast. So that's how it started. But it's just so interesting because we were talking before we started rolling about how you do things in order to open up yourself and release all of this information into the world about yourself. And then you're like, oh, is anyone listening? No one cares. And I think that was the thing where it was I was constantly getting feedback from people that were like, we love this, more of this. And so it's been interesting into the transitionary space as far as a podcast where now it's hard to get that validation. It's really hard to get that validation of knowing if this is helpful for people. And
do you mean people aren't reaching out as much or commenting?
Yes, people reach out more. I mean, for sure, some, and I think that some people do reach out, and I super appreciate it. Although, again, I'm always up for more reach out. So please, y'all. But it's more
connect with us. It's the whole point.
Exactly. Connect with us. But it was more that I was getting immediate responses from people because I was doing a Facebook Live with I don't know, tens of thousands of people, and immediately they would be like, ooh, love that article, ooh, love what you're saying, ooh, blah blah blah. It was this constant validation, constant little serotonin gratifications in my brain. And then now in the podcast where you're just like coming on and like speaking into the ether, and you're like, I hope someone likes this.
It's
And I
like
have to
auditions. It's like,
It is.
you get asked to read or put a tape on for a role. I mean, all the creatives and actors in the industry know exactly what this is, especially
Yeah.
in the land of self-tapes now, where you work so hard, you're doing it for an audience of no one because you're not
Yeah.
even in front of the casting or producers or directors anymore. And you
Yep.
send it off and you go, great, I just poured my heart and soul into something. Is anyone watching? Is anyone there? And wow, that's so interesting because, in this space too, we sit here and we talk to each other and then we release it out. And it's lovely that, yes, there is some feedback, whether in comments or just from friends listening. But other than that, you're like, is anyone out there?
Yeah. Well, and especially because it's like the whole point of this podcast is to be of service to people and to like educate and inspire and make people feel less alone. Like that's part of the tagline. That's part of why I created this. And sometimes I am like, maybe people don't want to hear from me anymore. I don't like this is me being a Debbie Downer, but like,
okay, well, this brings me
you know,
to a point because in your first episode, you were speaking about how we talk to ourselves.
yeah,
And obviously that's in the mental health lane, that's just a recurring theme of like,
for sure.
how do we speak to ourselves? What is the constant rhetoric or belief system that we feed our brains that then is essentially executed out into the world? And so interesting to hear you say now, kind of in the Debbie Downer sphere, which I'm sure it's day to day, right?
Yeah,
One
for
day you
sure.
probably wake up and you're like, I know exactly why I'm doing this. I feel really positive about it. I'm so glad about this episode and we're going to launch it out. And then some days you wake up and you go, what is any of this for? And why does it matter? Are you feeling, so you're saying you're feeling a little Debbie Downer at this point with the
Well, I
podcast?
think,
Or
I mean, honestly, it's like I think it's like re-listening to this episode. I had like such pride for myself. Like it's such a like well thought out, succinct episode. Like I really think it's great, and it has evolved so much. The podcast has evolved so much, both in its format and then in just like so many things.
yeah.
And I'm like, maybe people like it's. There's just like always the doubts, like, oh, maybe people like that other version better. Like, why did you shift it? You know, it's just it's the constant plight of an artist of like putting things out there into the world and feeling like you are constantly under scrutiny in some capacity. I am learning now that this is clearly a theme for myself because I talked about this also in the remix episode about like feeling like I'm constantly under pressure both from myself but from this invisible external force in order to like be better, do better, whatever.
Which is such a common theme for us all. And I find it so interesting what you were saying about creating the podcast in order to be a service to others, which I think many of us, it is a huge reason why we start many things. And it's obviously an admirable reason. But listening to you kind of have these really cool discoveries and like, oh, let me learn that about myself. I've been aware of like in being of service to others, you also can be of service to yourself. Like the service of others also regurgitates, I don't even know if that's the right word, but it recycles back to you because you learn so much while in service. And I think that's the coolest thing because if you're just self-serving, then I would assume there is no learning in that because you're just take. But in the collaboration, in the connection with other people, in the attempt of service, you get it back because someone else gets to be of service in the same lane. I have this, if you're watching right now, I keep doing this like circle thing with my hands. And I'm like, I said years ago.
We're entertaining, y'all. You should watch us on YouTube.
I did say, I
or
was like,
Spotify.
I want to make, it's like my recycle, the recycling where it's just the arrows that go. I'm like, I feel like that's how it is with our spirits or like, our service of like, it goes from the heart and out and then you it gets bounced back and around and puts right back into you. And it's just the
Yeah.
constant.
Yeah.
That's so corny.
It's interesting because there's this concept in Judaism called tzedakah, which is like, giving back to people. But there's levels of tzedakah. That terrible way to explain this, but to like give yourself like good points, heaven points.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, ooh, you're a good person if you do tzedakah, if you give back to people. But there's levels, and the like highest level is like if you're giving to someone and they don't know who you are. So like you're giving without expecting anything in return.
Yes.
It's not that I want to create if I'm not being in service. It's that I have some insecurity about my own self-worth and my own voice and whether or not what I'm saying is helpful for people. And if it's not, like if I'm not getting a feedback from people that it's helpful, then why am I doing this? But again, that's my own shit that I need to
I'm sitting
constantly work on.
Scoot over, girl. I'm in the boat.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Looking back and watching a bit more, when we decide to pursue something, and in that moment, I think any creative knows that moment where you're like, I'm going to do this. This is going to be awesome. It's that like fantastical imagination of like what you could put into the world and how you can be of service. And it doesn't, I don't believe it stems from a place of like, because then I'll get XP or all this validation. But I do agree. And because I also feel that too, of that insecurity, that piece of maybe if I could just help enough, be good enough to someone else, or enough heaven points, as you say, that then that idea of enoughness, right? Maybe I will have done enough or convinced myself. I feel like it's just a whole game of like convincing ourselves that we could just show up in this whole messy sphere and still be like, yeah, that was great. But how do we, and especially in the world that we live in, how do we go about learning that trust within ourselves? Just be like, I don't need any outside validation. That's hard. Hard not to want to seek that external validation, want to hear from it because it feels great.
Right.
Who doesn't love a little like, you're doing great, or here's a present for all the great stuff you're doing.
Well, and it's such a, going back to the bit of the difference between doing what I was doing with the Mighty and doing what I'm doing now, the podcast, and this I think just relates to society in general, where it's like we're becoming more disconnected as people. We are more solitary, like as much as phones and technology, like all of this stuff is being built, like AI, all of this stuff is being built so that we can think less and we can connect with virtual fake people more. I mean, like the studies that are coming out with people saying that like 60% of people surveyed would have an AI girlfriend. And you're just like, what, and this is the fact that we are choosing as humans to step away from others. I mean, number one, makes me really fucking sad, but I think it also is allowing people to disassociate. And so I feel like that is making me even more want validation from real people, because I'm like, I want to know that there's people out there who are actually listening and benefiting, because I'm not doing this for the chat bots, y'all. Like, I'm doing this for people.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Would you consider yourself a rebellious person?
Absolutely not.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Okay, explain why. And then I'll explain why you're wrong.
Oh my God, I love this. Oh, I am like such a rule follower, and just like...
Sorry, I can't help but laughing. This is hilarious.
This is so funny that you see me so different. Yeah, I like, I'm like a color inside the lines person. Or if I don't, I'm like very purposeful, and I'm like, ooh, Deborah, look at you coloring outside the lines. You made a little star over there. Like, you get to give yourself a cookie.
A very precise star.
Yeah,
but it's outside of the box.
Exactly. No, I don't. Tell me more.
Okay.
Why do you think I'm rebellious?
While I completely understand, because I think this goes back to the theme of just like really what we think of ourselves and how we think we're presenting to everyone else versus how, I mean, wouldn't it be lovely if we could just like grab the glasses of someone else that sees us and
Yeah,
see what they see for a second?
for sure.
I I would say you are rebellious, but not in like a negative connotation.
Mm-hmm.
In the fact that you are creating the rebelliousness comes from like you found a need or there was a need in yourself or a need to connect. So you started this podcast or you produce, you know, great documentaries or movies and everything. And just in the realm of the AI topic that we're talking about, where
Mm-hmm.
all that's going to present is it makes it easier and easier for us to not do anything, to
Mm-hmm.
sit back. Like you said, we're not going to have to think. We're not going to have to take action toward anything. It's going to crumble us as humans because we're giving all the power to this technology to be able to do stuff for us or do it for
Mm-hmm.
us, which sounds incredible in the short term. But in the long term, it is not going to be of service to ourselves and to our communities. So I do think that someone like you is rebellious by nature against those types of potential futures. You see that there is a need. You see that that is not going to actually be of service to us. So, out of a true desire of connection, of trying to better ourselves, trying to better us as a whole, as a collective, you have rebelled against that state of of you know, who wouldn't want to take the easy route out?
Yeah.
I want to take it all the time, but then like then we have to die to ourselves because
Mm-hmm.
we're not fulfilling some kind of creative process or some type of, I keep saying service, but that we're kind of on that topic, right? Service to our fellow humans. That's my point of like, I
Yeah.
definitely see you as, you know, I think people would consider rebellious nature of like, oh, you create conflict all the time or you disagree with everybody all the time. And I think it's, yeah, you're smoking cigs and you're offering beer and wine to everybody.
Yeah.
You're just leading everyone down a bad path. And
Yep.
I think rebellion has a much different definition in your, I don't know, using it correctly in a sense. So
Yeah.
that's what I see when I say I do think you have like a rebellious nature in that you rebel against the more hidden versions of things that
Yeah.
could harm us that we're not seeing right in plain sight.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, friend. I mean, I'm like a cat with a squirrel or a dog with a squirrel. I'm constantly chasing things,
Yeah.
constantly trying. I always have this like ticking clock in my head.
Mm.
I feel like more than normal people. I
You
don't
know what
know.
it's ticking against?
I mean, death.
Fair. Fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just
oh, my
like,
clock just got louder.
yeah. I mean, okay. In science class in like sixth grade, our teacher taught us about the Big Bang and then also talked about how our sun's going to explode in so many, years, so many millions of years or
Mhm.
whatever. And I remember
Wherever did we
going,
get anxiety from?
I mean, truly, I didn't sleep for like a month.
Yeah.
I remember.
Thanks,
Like I
science
had,
class.
yep, for reals. And I'm just like, that was not helpful. And now with like global warming, and this is just, we're going to go down a deep path here, but
Let's
like,
go. Dive in. Buckle up, everybody.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to go down this path. But like it's one of those things where I feel constantly like I'm running out of time. And I think it's hard for me. That's also why it's hard for me to like stay in the moment to, I'm always like, okay, what am I going to do next? Is that thing not necessarily going to make me happy because I'm a very happy person. Like I love my life, but just like, am I going to achieve the next level that I am striving for? And I think going back to this remix episode, like I had such like earnestness and purity. Like it makes me a little sad how much I've lost that, but I'm also like, I should go back and re-listen to all of the episodes from season 1 just to like remind myself where I've started, and also just like to like bring a little bit of that like fun little girl Deborah back into my life, because I think that yeah, we all need that playfulness.
Yes. I love the term you use, the earnestness. And that's such a cool idea too. I think anything we start or embark on, of course, when we start it, it's like we haven't faced any road bumps or blocks or obstacles. So it's like clear skies ahead. This is going to
Yep.
be the greatest new adventure and the greatest idea I've ever had.
Easiest.
And
Yep.
yeah, so easy. I love how we trick ourselves into thinking that. Um, but it is, whether it be acting or writing or motherhood or just whatever thing you're dealing with in life, it is important. And I have to remind myself of this as well, especially in my career, of it's important to look back and just assess of like, what have I accomplished? Write down the accomplishments or seeing what you've overcome, because I think it is inevitable that we hit a certain point where we just go, gosh, is this even worth it? What is the point? I'm tired. And is burnout real? It was very real, but it's
For sure.
I would love to jump and talk about the aesthetic that you brought. You've got like pink shadow and red. Like I feel like you're about to walk out on a Valentine's Day date. Was that because you were doing it in COVID? Were you like dressing up and kind of doing these things to make yourself feel better? Or was you're like, I'm going to present? I don't know. Was that the phase you were in? You're like,
I mean, for sure.
I love it.
Sure. I was definitely like, yeah, wanting to, doing the like, oh, I need to put real pants on today.
Yeah.
And like put makeup on my face. Also though,
You
was
look
just
gorgeous.
like,
You also had the dark hair, short and dark hair going.
yeah. I mean, that was the short dark hair was a post breakup, the very typical like post breakup,
What is that in us as women? Like changing the
mean,
hair, changing life.
I know. And it's like this is the thing that's gonna make you
Yeah,
want me
this
back.
is what I have control over.
Yeah. Actually, that was my rebellious. I mean, not really, because again, I was still like follow the rules. But I'm gonna put a little headshot right here, everyone, for you to see me. What I look like, as soon as me and my ex-husband broke up, I cut my hair into like a short bob with bangs and dyed it black. And I got tattoos and like that was my vibe.
That would be considered a rebellious phase for
yes,
sure.
It's true.
Everything the opposite of what I've been doing for however long.
Yeah. Well, and ironically, the rebellion was actually because he thought that I was he thought that I was too much of a goody two shoes, that I was too straight laced, that I was like not willing to like be bold, whatever. I mean, all this,
You're like,
this
fuck
bullshit.
you, watch this.
Pretty much, yeah. I was like, oh, you want someone to be badass? Like, look at that, which of course is just like so unhelpful to yourself and to, anyone.
We asked this question in my remix episode, but the question was, what would you tell that version of Deborah that maybe she needed to hear, or wisdom you've gained in the evolution of Deborah Lee Smith currently? What would you tell the first episode of the first season Deborah of More Than You See?
I mean, I think like as far as when it comes to the podcast, I'll be like, I don't know. I think that's bad thoughts there. But just because of everything we were just talking about, my own insecurities. But I think that like, my life is in such a like wonderful, different, like completely different place than I thought I was going to be, 5 years ago. And yeah, I mean, I think that like having Beckett, having 2 girls, like my partner's girls, owning a home, like all of that stuff is like so like the fact that it happened is like unbelievable sometimes to me. And so I think maybe manifestations are real. The things that you really like the energy that you put into the world comes back at you, I think.
There and
Exactly.
back to the logo.
These
Full
recycling.
circle. Looking back at first episode, Deborah, do you remember what her goals were at that time? Was she just surviving day by day? I mean, aren't we all currently? But does she have the long-term goals that are they similar to now, Deborah, or have they
I
shifted?
I mean, I think I had very similar goals that I do still today. But I definitely think the like relationship piece was very important to me. But I also, had to go through a lot of different relationships and evolution in myself in order to get into the relationship that I'm in now. And so, I think that that's definitely where I've seen the most growth for myself, both in how I stand up for myself in my relationship now, how I support someone else, like in all of the ways that you should and not in the ways that you shouldn't. Like, I've really grown so much as a person when it comes to relationships. And I think that, I mean, no one should get married under the age of 30, basically. That is my
That's your
thesis,
words of
because
wisdom.
yeah, I really I grew so much in the first few years of my 30s, and that was really invaluable for me in like knowing what I want.
Yeah. It's so interesting to think, I'm from the South, so most of my friends got married in their 20s, early 20s, mid 20s. They're clocking 2, 3, 4 kids.
Yeah.
And I would never, everyone has a different journey. I believe that, like, hey, it works for some people and for some people it doesn't. I agree with
Yep.
you in that, like, I believe that, like, you just can't possibly know yourself to a deep extent in your 20s. Like,
Yep.
and maybe, again, maybe we're just of a certain breed that, like, we were idiots in our 20s and we didn't know what we want, but kind of in a universal sense, I'm just like, how do any of us? We don't have enough life experience. We have not faced enough hardship or obstacles that test our character and our faith and our strength, and our internal makeups that help us discover how far we can go or what we're really made of. And I think I remember turning 30. I don't remember if I've said this in other episodes, but I remember turning 30 being like, I have made it. I'm so excited for 30. This is about to be the most epic decade of my life because I'm about to get everything I want. Wow. Wake up calls. 30 to 35. I was just like, what is happening? What is going on? And why
For
is
sure.
I can't control anything. Nothing is going the way that I would think to plan it. And I'm
Yep.
nowhere closer. I feel like I'm nowhere closer to half the goals I've set in my 30s.
Yeah. You're further away from
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. So that's
Yeah.
interesting to hear. Yeah. What do you have any other like relationship revelations that you've discovered in that time?
I mean, I'm sure we could do a whole episode on
Sure. I was
relationships.
just curious. Just asking the question.
Yeah. Not, it was really about like finding someone who would not allow me to like compromise on myself, Like, I think it's very common in relationships to want to do stuff in order to please the other person, in order to make their life better and, etc. Which, of course, you do that, but that's not the like first thing. And that's something that like Brian reminds me all the time, that like it's okay to put myself first. And that comes before, that's including him, that's including Beckett, that's including everything. And it's like, think that the girls, like the other day, the girls, we were all sitting around the dinner table and one of their aunts asked them, like, what do they think about when they think about me? And they were like, they said food, but they said because Deborah's never home when we eat dinner, like she's always out. And I was like, my first instinct was like, these girls are going to grow up and think that I'm never around. But it's because I'm always working, or I'm always like, I'm with networking, or I'm at a film group, or I'm whatever. And it's like, I'm around a lot, but they're right. Like in those dinner time hours, I'm often not home. And it was one of those things where he kind of reminded me, he was like, yeah, but that's not, that memory is not the only thing that's important.
Mm.
And like, you are there for them. You do show up for them. But it is, it's a struggle sometimes. But then I would just remind myself, like, I've got big goals. And in order to have big goals, you got to, do what you got to do, basically.
Well, and it's so interesting. I mean, this dives into, themes of being a woman, societal expectations,
1000%.
motherhood guilt, like
Mm-hmm.
moral personhood guilt. Like we could go into so many different directions just on this topic. But I think circling back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, of just like everyone being legitimately on their own journey, it's so hard not to compare to someone else's, because someone else is home every night for dinner.
Right.
And that works for them. What works for Deborah is I have flexible hours in my day. I'm here for school pickups or drop-offs. I can be here for concerts or performances. Schoolwork, da 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 da. But dinner time is the time where self-care for Deborah as a filmmaker, as a creative and that's a lot of industry standards, the times where we have to go meet and greet or put on the face or have an event or organize it's obviously after the workday.
Right.
And
exactly.
So it's, and you're going to have people that understand that, and you're going to have people that don't. And so it is going back to how to trust yourself enough, how to know yourself enough to go, this is my self-care. It is not selfish. That's something I deal with a lot. My OCD loves to prick that part of me of, well, is this very selfish because it fills you up with joy and it's something you love to do, but it quote unquote takes away time from loved ones or family members that don't have the same schedule. That's an interesting thing to hear.
Well, as a final little piece, I want to touch in this episode about the 4 things that I brought up. So the first episode, which everyone should go and listen, the first episode is really about how mental health is this holistic thing. And I quote this doctor that I don't remember what her name is, but I quote this doctor about how she basically talks about how your mental health is influenced by your biology, by your physiology, and by your sociology. And so that's basically like what is made up of you, your body chemistry, your sociology. So like, who you surround yourself with, your environment, all of those sorts of things. And then your physiology, which is about actually like how you talk to yourself and how you were brought up to talk about yourself. And then I mentioned in the episode about how my therapist at the time was like, oh, and also spirituality. And it doesn't have to be like God or universe. It could truly be, it's basically just like having something that you believe in and that like gives you purpose. It's basically purpose. And I'm curious, I've talked before about how those 4 elements affect me. And I'm definitely like, honestly, re-listening to that episode was really important to me because I was like, okay, Deborah, remind yourself that like if you're having a really shitty day or like a really poor mental health day, like look at those 4 things and figure out like which one is not working for you and address that, because that is probably the thing that is going to help make a really shitty day marginally better. But I'm curious if this is something like, if those are 4 things that you had heard of before and what your reaction to those things are.
In a way,
Yeah.
I feel like more recently, I've probably heard of, these specific categories and making up mental health. But I definitely heard of, the biology, especially as someone who has been on and taken medication most of her life. Like my first introduction to mental health when I was, 10 years old, 11 years old, started having panic attacks, was I have a chemical imbalance in my brain. And so automatically, which kind of ties into what you say about yourself. So 100%. I was told I've got a chemical imbalance. Okay, scientifically, I am not made up of certain chemicals, implemented in my brain. Then that created okay, great. So I obviously need a certain chemical structure biologically, but now it comes into the physiology, into the sociology of what I'm being told about myself. And then, I grew up in the Christian church. So like plenty of like faith that goes along with this, and that has been a huge structure in terms of like just having faith to be like, I don't know what in the world is going on half the time and with myself. And so I do feel like, you want to have a faith foundation, because I mean, we're all aware that like there is no certainty in life. So
For sure.
faith is a huge part of that. Like faith is literally just like having a faith in what is unknown.
For sure.
And so, yeah, I agree that all of these categories make up how we view the mental health space and how we navigate. But there's so much information where you're like, I feel like for me, I'm always like, great. And how does that pertain to me? And how can I just feel better half the time? And a lot of us, or a lot of people, I think that, enter into mental health. I'm in an OCD therapy group, and it's a group of 8 people, and it's of all varying ages. And we have some people that are like above the age of 50 and 55. And it's really interesting to hear them speak and how they are so grateful that there is vocabulary now, that there's rhetoric in a time where, and they're awed to see that there are people in younger generations that are seeking treatment, seeking help, talking more openly about and destigmatizing, the things that happen in our bodies and in our brains that we're just trying to navigate through. And so all this to say, going back to the categories, I don't know if I'm actually answering the question, but it's where my mind's leading me of, it's I think to have specific vocabulary. So to say, these are the categories: biology, physiology, sociology, spirituality. These are main pulled structures that make up this whole navigation of what is going on here.
Sure.
Is just a great starting point to navigate the journey of discovering yourself and what's going on internally.
It's like, for me, it's like little check boxes, because it's like, okay, is there something going on is there a reason I'm not speaking to myself kindly? Have I been spending most of my time in a dark room watching TV on the couch? Okay, I need to change my environment. Have I not connected with a person in real life in a little while? Okay, I need to have that connection. Right. Obviously the chemical, when it comes to biology, so like what's going on with your brain, but also like, have you eaten today? Have you drank enough water? Like, what are the things that require your body to function optimally? Because your brain is obviously part of your body. And it is something where, I think that it's so incredible that you're an OCD group. I want to, do a whole episode about that.
We can, yeah.
But I think that it's such an important reminder to be like, right, our brains need so much love and support and nutrients and all of the things in order to work at an optimal level. And this is why I'm sad about ChatGPT, because one of the things that our brains need, just like our body, is exercise and the ability to think and to problem solve and to analyze and to require your brain to actually use its functionality. And AI is making it so that we are going to lose those analytical skills. There we go. There's the final circle.
I love it.
Final little recycle
and
for the
I don't. I'm like, should we stop here? I've got so much more. I'm like, I could just go forward. But I do want to say one thing on the problem solving skills. Problem solving is a huge advantage to combating mental health disorders or, like brain illnesses, or just being a person, because we get to that reward. My point is, here's the story. My nephew was trying to open a small bottle. He was baking with my ex at the time, and he was trying to open one of those like vanilla containers, and it had the little silver top on it. And he's 5 years old at the time, so the tiny hands, and he could not do it. And you're watching him get so frustrated and so angry at himself. And it was like, wow, we do that as adults when you're like, I can't figure it out. I'm never going to do it. And if you just calm down, breathe enough, maybe ask for assistance. But, Nick at the time was like, you got it, buddy. Like, let me just fold this over and now you pull. And he got it. And just him being able to open and know that like he did it. It was frustrating in the moment. He was, I'm sure, thinking like, I'm not strong enough and I can't do it and this is never going to work. And then he figured out the problem and he figured out, oh, I can do it if I just keep trying.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a big part of what we're all doing here. Like,
Yeah.
keep doing it. Keep trying. Yes, it is
Yeah.
going to be frustrating. I don't think we're supposed to actually know what we're doing.
Yeah. You're right.
But
I
maybe
love
with a
that.
little help and encouragement and another
Yeah.
go, we'll get there.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. That's the perfect place to end.
Yeah.
Just keep trying, everyone.
Let's keep trying. We'll keep showing up. Connect with us here.
Yeah.
Should we
Thank
blurb
you
it
for
out?
listening. Yeah, thank you for listening. As we said, obviously, I was like, obviously related, like releasing some feelings and some frustrations in this episode, but we really do want to hear from you. We do really want to have you rate and review and subscribe. You would do me the biggest honor. You would do both of us the biggest honor to just like share this podcast with one friend, someone that you think would be entertained and would get something out of this, because word of mouth is the way to help something like this grow. And we really need all of you in order to help this grow. So please, thank you for that. Shelley, is there any last words you want to say?
I want to thank everyone for being here and piggybacking off Deb. If you know someone who needs some help and heard something relatable here, let them know or share with us, especially share with us if there was something that you connected with. That's really cool to know. It is. It's all about community and getting to know one another and connecting. So we're here for you. And if you're here, let us know you're here.
That's right. So again, thank you, everyone. Please remember to be kind to yourself and others, and remember that you and everyone around you is more than you see. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you for a bonus episode on Thursday, and then we will see you again next week.